So hello, everyone. My name is Shakebrat Levy, and I'm from the product marketing team here at Wiz. And for this quick webinar, I will talk to you about future-proofing cloud security and creating a new operating model for cloud security. So starting off with some of the background, why do we need a new cloud security operating model? So if we take a look at the cloud and the changes that it brought into security, the cloud really has changed everything and was the biggest transformation security has ever seen. And what are some of those changes that the cloud has brought? So first of all, here we're looking at a new type of environment. So we have different types of architectures, whether it's containers, serverless functions, and an environment that can grow very quickly and scale rapidly. So organizations often struggle with how do they gain full visibility into their ever-changing environment. The next change that the cloud has brought is new types of risks. So when we look at a critical risk in the cloud, we really want to understand both the cloud context and the workload context. So we want to understand things like the IAM permissions, if there's any vulnerabilities in the workloads, if there's cloud misconfigurations. And only once we understand all of those is when we can fully understand what is the criticality of an issue. So the cloud has brought the challenge where organizations really need to understand how do they prioritize the real risks and eliminate the noise. Lastly, the cloud has also brought a new ownership model. So your developers can go in and launch new EC2 instances in the click of a button. But how do we ingrain security across all the teams to make sure that the developers are doing it securely and they're not introducing new types of risks into the environment? So I'll quickly take a look at this graph here. So in the red, we can see the exponential growth in the need in cloud security. So as your organization is expanding your cloud footprint and you're adopting more and more technologies and growing your cloud teams, and you're really just innovating quickly in the cloud, so does the need for cloud security grows with it. However, as Juan mentioned, your security team might not be able to hire as fast as your cloud environment grows. And because you can't keep on hiring as fast as your cloud environment does, often the security team's capacity really just has to focus on keeping the lights on types of activities. So just focusing on baseline alerts or just triaging alerts with manual analysis. And this leaves them really limited time to focus on effectively reducing the risk in the environment. So because the security team's capacity is in the blue section, but there's this big gap between the need to their capacity, this can lead to the security team missing on critical risks in the environment, can result in blind spots and a distrust between the developers and the security team. And all this does is that it slows down the cloud security journey, the cloud journey. So having said that, we at Wiz think that we can't keep on doing the same thing. And because of that, we are suggesting here a new operating model for cloud security. So let's take a look at what this new operating model looks like. So as a part of this new operating model, we look at cloud security through a unified platform that covers all of your cloud security needs. So traditionally, there used to be tools that cover just looking at CSPM misconfigurations or workload protection, data security, and each one of these tools were siloed from each other and their data was sitting in different silos, different tools. But in order to effectively protect your cloud environment, you really need to have a unified platform that covers all of these different solutions, whether it's data security, secret scanning, IC scanning. And this unified solution also needs to be able to cater to all the teams in your organization and not just the security team. So we want the developers to be able to use and understand this unified tool, your DevOps team, your vulnerability management team, and so on. And let's take a look at how we do this new operating model at Wiz. So the first thing that Wiz does is that we connect to your cloud environment via APIs, and we don't require any agents. So we do agentless scanning of your entire environment, and we can connect within minutes. So we take a look at your environment, and then we identify every cloud resource running in it, as well as every technology running on top of those resources. Again, that we do that without any agents. So once we scan your environment, we map it all on what we call the Wiz security graph, which is what you see here. So you can easily understand the relationship between different resources in your environment and gain that full stack visibility into every single resource in your environment. The next thing that we do is that we run risk assessment to identify risks across cloud misconfigurations, critical vulnerabilities. We do secret scanning, identify malware in the environment. We look at permissions to identify excessive access. We also run data security scans to identify sensitive data in your environment. So once we run this risk assessment, we take all this information and we add it on to the Wiz security graph. And as I mentioned before, because we are looking at it through a unified platform point of view, we're bringing all these risks together so we can really effectively understand how risks come together to create a critical issue in your environment. So for example, if you use a traditional vulnerability management tool, you might have seen that you get hundreds, if not thousands, of alerts of vulnerabilities in your environment. Now, this is what Wiz is really trying to reduce that type of noise. And the way we do that is by bringing all those risks into this unified Wiz security graph. So what does this allow us to do? Having all the risks sit on the same backend data model and on the security graph allows us to identify attack paths in your environment. So in this example here, we have a virtual machine here that Wiz found that has a critical vulnerability on it. But not only that, when we were looking at the network exposure, Wiz was also able to identify this network path here that exposes this virtual machine to the internet. So now we know we have a machine that is vulnerable, and we know that this machine is also publicly exposed to the internet. So we know that an attacker could come in and exploit this vulnerability and reach the virtual machine. But not only that, Wiz also found that the IAM role that's attached to the machine provides us access to a data store that's used for AI training that has sensitive PII data in it. So essentially, an attacker could come in and exploit this vulnerability and reach your crown jewels and your PII data in your environment. Now, this is really important because this is one of our biggest differentiators. Is by bringing all those risks together, we can really help you reduce the noise of other tools that generate a lot of alerts to only focus on the risks that you should really care for and you should prioritize in your environment, like this one, because they have a business impact. So once you've determined the critical risks in the environment, the next step of this operating model is that you want to be able to identify the ownership of each one of the risks. So Wiz allows you to create what we call Wiz projects and allow you to separate your cloud resources based on the team that owns them or the application and so on. And you can then provide your developers and the different teams with role-based access control permissions into Wiz, so they can then log in and only see the issues that are important to them. So for example, the security team can have a centralized view across all the different teams, but then let's say developer team A logs into Wiz and then they only see the risks that they own. So now that you've determined ownership, the next step is that you want to be able to set up some automations in place in order to get alerted or remediate the issue. So Wiz allows you to integrate Wiz with many different third-party tools, whether it's things like ticketing systems like Jira or messaging systems like Slack to send notifications to the right team at the right time. Or you can also set up automatic remediation directly in AWS or whatever cloud you're in order to able to speed up that remediation. So up until now, you're able to effectively identify risks in your cloud environment and proactively remove them. But the next step of this operating model is that you want to eventually be able to shift left. So shift security left. And what does that mean? It means that you want to be able to identify risks early on in your development lifecycle. So not only when those risks reach production. So the way Wiz enables you to do that is that you can scan whether it's IC templates or code repositories, container images, AMIs. You can scan all of those for misconfigurations, vulnerabilities, or exposed secrets, as well as some of our more recent capabilities. So you can connect Wiz to your GitHub repositories and scan your code there, and can provide in-code remediation steps as well. So all these capabilities really allow you to shift security left so you can identify those risks early on in your development lifecycle and ensure that those risks never even reach your production environment. So now you've proactively removed those risks from your environment. However, it might not be possible to remove every single risk. And because of that, you still want to be able to detect risks in real time, right? So any threats that are happening in real time, you want to make sure that you're also prepared, even if you proactively remove the other risks. So with the Wiz runtime sensor, you can detect those real-time threats in containers. So for example, like a crypto miner that's installed in a container, and you can detect that in real time. So now that you've detected this threat, Wiz also correlates the runtime events back to the cloud context. So for example, here we can see you can identify this threat in your container, but then Wiz can tell you, hey, this attacker was able to escape this container and use this role to move laterally in your environment and reach your crown jewels. So we combine that runtime context with the cloud context to be able to identify those threats. And the last step of this operating model is that we enable you to quickly investigate the threats in your environment by looking at things like the forensics package. So you can really reduce that blast radius and remove that threat that is happening in your environment. So this new operating model that we went through is really not just for organizations that are really mature in their cloud journey, but this can really benefit organizations anywhere in their cloud journey. So if you're newer to the cloud, you can use this operating model to really build a secure foundation in the cloud and gain that visibility into every cloud resource that you have in technology, and eventually reach zero critical risks in your environment. If you're a bit more mature in the cloud, you can use this operating model to modernize your cloud security SecOps by adopting best practices and effective collaboration to help you scale security across your organization. Last but not least, if you're more mature in the cloud, you can really use this operating model to enable your business to move faster by shifting left, so identifying those risks early on to make sure that security doesn't slow down innovation and you can accelerate your cloud adoption. And that is a wrap for this quick session. And if you'd like to learn more about Wiz, you can check out our website or our LinkedIn or request a live demo on our website as well with these links. And with that, thank you.